Do you ever stop to think about where your money goes each month? You might be surprised. It's so easy to get caught in the daily whirlwind of life, and before you know it, your hard-earned dollars have vanished into thin air. But have you ever stopped to ponder, where does it all go? One word: luxuries. And not the big, flashy ones like that shiny new sports car or the latest designer handbag. No, we're talking about the little everyday luxuries that seem so harmless in the moment, but can add up to a staggering amount over time. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing inherently wrong with indulging in life's little pleasures. A gourmet coffee here, a fancy dinner there, a new lipstick, or a pair of designer shoes. It's these seemingly insignificant expenditures that make life a little more enjoyable, a little more bearable. But here's the kicker. These everyday luxuries can sneakily eat away at your wallet without you even realizing it. Let's crunch some numbers. According to a survey, the average American spends around $2,000 a year just on coffee. Yes, you heard it right, $2,000 on that daily cup of joe. Now add to that the cost of dining out, which is roughly $3,000 a year. And don't forget about those monthly streaming subscriptions, which can easily amount to another few $100s a year. Before you know it, you're looking at a yearly expenditure that's in the high thousands, all spent on what? Everyday luxuries. Now, take a moment to think about all the other things you could have done with that money. Paid off debt, saved for a rainy day, invested for the future. The possibilities are endless. So are these everyday luxuries keeping us broke? Let's delve deeper. How often do you find yourself in a coffee shop, ordering that $5 latte? You know the routine. The barista knows your name, your order, and just how you like it. It's a comforting ritual, a way to start your day or break up the monotony of the afternoon. Let's break down the numbers. A $5 latte 5 days a week for 52 weeks in a year. If you do the math, that comes out to a staggering $1,300 a year. Yes, you heard right, $1,300. That's enough for a decent vacation, or a good chunk of a down payment on a car, or even a small house in some places. And we're not alone in this coffee shop chronicle. In fact, according to a survey by Acorns, the average American spends over $1,000 on coffee each year. That's more than they save for retirement. That's a lot of beans, isn't it? Now, we're not suggesting you give up your beloved brew. Far from it. But consider this. What if you learned to make your favorite latte at home? Or what if you simply swapped out that daily latte for a regular cup of coffee a few times a week? The savings can add up quickly, and you might be surprised at how much you can accumulate over time. A dollar saved is a dollar earned, as they say, and in this case, it could be over $1,000 earned, all from skipping that daily latte. So, the next time you're in line at the coffee shop, consider the true cost of that latte. Is it worth it? Only you can decide. But remember, every dollar counts, and the small choices we make every day can have a big impact on our financial future. Who knew a cup of joe could drain your dough? Don't let your latte habit leave you latte-less in your bank account. Choose wisely, sip mindfully, and save where you can. Your wallet will thank you. Eating out can be a real treat, but how much is it costing us? Let's dive into the delightful, yet potentially devastating world of dining out. It's tantalizing, isn't it? The sizzling sounds, the tantalizing aromas, the delightful ambiance, and the joy of not having to do the dishes. But my dear friends, those scrumptious steak dinners and those luscious lobster lunches could be costing us more than we think. According to a study by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American spends approximately $3,000 on dining out each year. To put that into perspective, that's about $8.20 a day. Doesn't sound like much, right? But let's break it down further. If you're dining out for dinner 5 times a week, and let's be conservative here, and say you're spending around $20 each time, that's $100 a week. Multiply that by 52 weeks in a year, and you're looking at an expense of $5,200. That's a lot of dough, quite literally. And let's not forget the extras. Those fancy cocktails, the decadent desserts, and oh, those sneaky service charges and taxes that always seem to inflate the bill. These can significantly hike up your dining out expenses. Now, don't get me wrong. There's no harm in indulging once in a while. But if dining out is more of a routine than a treat, it might be time to reconsider. Imagine what you could do with that money. A down payment on a car, a trip to Europe, or simply a hefty addition to your savings. So let's think twice before we swap our kitchen for the restaurant. Let's make dining out a luxury, not a habit. Let's go back to the joy of home-cooked meals, to the satisfaction of a well-made sandwich, to the triumph of a perfectly baked pie. After all, the best things in life are not just free, they are priceless. So, eating out a delightful luxury or a budget buster? Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, they're just a few bucks a month, right? Well, it's time we delve into the world of streaming subscriptions, the unseen financial sinkhole. They're convenient, they're entertaining, and they're everywhere. From movies and series to music and podcasts, there's a subscription for everything. But let's do a little math and see where these few bucks take us. A typical streaming service like Netflix or Hulu costs around $15 a month. Spotify Premium, that's another $10. Toss in Amazon Prime for some retail benefits and HBO Max because, well, who can resist those exclusive shows? Suddenly, we're looking at a monthly total of around $60. Now, $60 might not seem like a lot, but let's take this to a yearly scale. Multiply 60 by 12, and we're dealing with a whopping $720. That's right, $720. Could be a nice weekend getaway, right? Or perhaps a chunk out of your student loan. According to a survey by West Monroe, the average American spends approximately $237 a year on streaming subscriptions. That's nearly $250,000. And remember, that's just the average. Some of us are way above that mark. And let's not forget, these costs are just for individual subscriptions. If you're sharing your accounts with family or friends, or if you're subscribed to additional platforms like Apple Music or Disney Plus, your annual total could be significantly higher. So, what seemed like a few harmless bucks a month quickly snowballs into a substantial yearly expense. It's easy to forget the long-term impact when we're signing up for these services. After all, who wouldn't want unlimited access to their favorite shows, songs, and movies for just a few dollars a month? But remember, every dollar counts when it comes to your financial health. It's not about giving up what you love, but about making informed decisions. And on that note, we wrap up our deep dive into the world of streaming subscriptions. It turns out those few bucks can add up to a hefty sum over time. So let's add it all up. How much are these everyday luxuries costing us? Let's stroll down memory lane and revisit the indulgences we've discussed. Remember that daily cup of gourmet coffee? Averaging $5 a day, it adds up to a whopping $1,825 a year. That's a pretty steep price for a caffeine fix, don't you think? Next, we have the dining out dilemma. Even if you're only eating out twice a week at $20 a pop, that's over $2,000 a year. Add in some weekend brunches and you're looking at a sizable chunk of your paycheck. And we haven't even touched on those takeaway lunches during work days. Then there's the streaming subscriptions. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, the list goes on. With an average monthly cost of $25 per platform, you're looking at a yearly expenditure of around $300 per platform. And let's be honest, most of us are subscribed to more than one. So, if we take all these costs and bundle them up, what do we get? The average person could be spending over $4,000 a year on these so-called everyday luxuries. That's enough to fund a decent vacation or make a significant dent in any outstanding debt. But here's the real kicker. If you were to invest that money instead, with a modest return of 5% per annum, in 10 years, you'd have over $50,000. Now that's a figure worth contemplating over your next cup of joe. Let's be clear, we're not saying you should live like a monk, but it's worth considering where your money is going and whether these luxuries are truly enriching your life or simply draining your wallet. The question is, are these luxuries worth the cost, or are they keeping us broke?